Royal watchers, brace yourselves. Buckingham Palace is in utter turmoil. Queen Camilla has just been suspended after an explosive altercation with none other than young Princess Charlotte. Yes, you heard that right. Witnesses claim Camilla completely lost control, lashing out, an shocking outburst no one saw coming. But what exactly drove the Queen consort to attack the beloved princess? Was this the final crack in the royal family's fragile unity? Stay tuned as we unravel every scandalous detail behind this jaw-dropping royal drama. Queen Camilla and Princess Charlotte, unseen battle. Inside the ancient walls of Westminster Abbey, steeped in centuries of tradition, the royal family gathered for what was supposed to be a unifying celebratory day. The coronation of King Charles and the formal recognition of Queen Camilla. Royals, dignitaries and world leaders looked on as Camilla glided through the abbey in her shimmering ivory gown, appearing calm and regal, yet under her polished composure ran an unmistakable current of tension, a strain that careful observers could feel even though she never openly displayed it. This tension became most apparent in the subtle but charged interactions within the royal family itself. Just weeks before, an incident between Camilla and 10-year-old Princess Charlotte had captured the public's imagination, hinting at deeper rifts behind palace doors. Even at such a young age, Charlotte had already revealed a calm confidence that set her apart. On Coronation Day, those same undercurrents quietly surfaced. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, was radiant in sapphire blue, every inch the picture of dignity. But whenever her eyes met Camilla's, something flickered, an almost invisible tightness in her smile, and the narrowing of her gaze that suggested tension simmering just out of view. Then came a moment so fleeting it almost vanished amid the grandeur. As the procession moved forward, Camilla turned her head in a crisp motion to face Charlotte seated beside her mother. Lip readers would later decipher the words Camilla spoke, and unmistakably from command directed to Catherine. "Take her." It wasn't framed as a polite suggestion, it carried the hard edge of hierarchy and expectation, the tone of a queen consort exerting authority in front of both the royals and the watching world. Catherine did not react. Instead, her hands simply rested on Charlotte's arm, steady and reassuring. Her composure never cracked, but the subtle firmness in her stillness signaled that she would not be hurried or intimidated. The air seemed to shift as tension rippled through the front rows. Charlotte, perceptive beyond her years, lifted her eyes to Camilla without fear or confusion. She understood exactly what was happening then, in a voice soft enough not to disrupt the ceremony, but clear enough to be heard by those closest. She spoke with quiet determination. "I'm warning you." Her words were not childish defiance, they were measured, calm, and deliberate. The impact was instant. Camilla froze, her poise faltering for a moment as she looked to Catherine, perhaps expecting rebuke or reinforcement. Catherine simply pressed her hand more firmly against Charlotte's back, an unspoken message of solidarity. "You are not alone." This moment, though brief, revealed something far deeper than a single disagreement. It was Charlotte's way of protecting her dignity and her mother's while quietly challenging Camilla's certainty. A child's voice, clear and steady, had subtly shifted the balance of power. Camilla eventually composed herself, standing tall again, but a fine crack had formed in her flawless exterior. This was not the first time Charlotte's quiet strength had been on display. During Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee, she had calmly guided her younger brother Prince Louis, gently correcting his playful antics without drawing attention. Even then, she showed an ability to lead with grace rather than force. Unlike many children her age, Charlotte seems almost strengthened by the public eye. She meets it head-on, offers calm support to her siblings, and stands beside her parents with a poise rare even among adults. On that coronation day, her single sentence proved that even the smallest voice in the abbey could carry the weight of true authority. The silent face-off between Camilla and Charlotte during the events seemed to have degenerated to such an extent that suspension is being considered. Before delving into the details, let's find out who Princess Charlotte is and what she represents as she poses a great threat to the Queen. Princess Charlotte of Wales. Princess Charlotte of Wales, whose full name is Charlotte Elizabeth Diana, was born on the 2nd of May 2015. She is a cherished member of Britain's royal family and the only daughter of Prince William and Catherine, the Prince and Princess of Wales. As the granddaughter of King Charles III and the late Princess Diana, she holds a unique place in royal history and is currently third in line to inherit the British throne following her father and her older brother Prince George. Charlotte arrived in the world at precisely 8:34 in the morning at St Mary's Hospital in London. At the time of her birth, her great-grandmother Queen Elizabeth II was still the reigning monarch. Her birth was greeted with widespread celebration across the United Kingdom. To mark the occasion, cannons fired joyful salutes, and several of London's famous buildings were lit up in glowing pink to honor the arrival of a royal baby girl. Just 2 days later, on the 4th of May, her name was officially announced: Charlotte Elizabeth Diana. Each part of her name was chosen with deep significance. Charlotte pays tribute to her grandfather Charles. Elizabeth honors her great-grandmother, the Queen, and Diana is a heartfelt nod to her beloved late grandmother. On the 5th of July 2015, she was christened by the Archbishop of Canterbury Justin Welby in a ceremony held at St Mary Magdalene Church on the Sandringham Est. During her early years, Charlotte lived with her family at an overhaul their country home in Norfolk in 2017, and the family moved to Kensington Palace in London to be closer to royal duties and public life. When she was nearly 3 years old, Charlotte began attending Wilcox Nursery School in January 2018. A year later, she joined her brother George Thomas's school in Battersea, where she was known among classmates and teachers as Charlotte Cambridge, reflecting her father's title as Duke of Cambridge. In 2022, the family relocated again, this time settling at Adelaide Cottage in Windsor Home Park. That September, following the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, Charlotte's grandfather became King Charles III. As a result, she moved up in the line of succession, becoming third in line to the throne. Charlotte and her brothers Prince George and Prince Louis occasionally join their parents on official royal engagements, overseas tours, and important public events. Despite William and Catherine's consistent efforts to give their children as normal a childhood as possible, Charlotte often finds herself in the glare of cameras every time she appears in public. Photographs of her quickly spread around the world, sparking intense media interest. Beyond her royal duties, Charlotte has become a powerful style icon, especially among parents and young children. Outfits she wears often sell out within hours. A phenomenon the media calls the Charlotte effect. Studies and surveys have shown that her influence on children's fashion and retail trends is enormous. In fact, business analyst from Brand Finance once estimated that over the course of her lifetime, Princess Charlotte could generate more than £3 billion for the British economy. Reader's Digest later placed her potential value at around $4.6 billion, approximately £3.6 billion. Today she holds the official title of Her Royal Highness Princess Charlotte of Wales. Before her father became the Prince of Wales in September 2022, she was known as Her Royal Highness Princess Charlotte of Cambridge. From her birth to her early school years, and her role as a young royal figure, Charlotte's story continues to captivate people in Britain and around the globe. Why would Camilla feel threatened by Charlotte's reaction? Does it trigger something from her experience? Let's take a quick look at Camilla's journey as she transitioned over the decades from being scorned mistress to a crowned queen. The Miller's royal journey, a woman once lingering on the edges of royal life, Camilla's story has now come full circle from being labelled a controversial figure to standing proud beside King Charles III. Crowned and honoured Camilla's journey is nothing short of remarkable. For years, she existed quietly in the background, a shadow figure often painted as the villain in a story that captivated the world. Decades ago, when she first appeared in the public eye, many were quick to criticize her. One royal expert who met her in the 1990s recalls how disliked she was at the time. Yet he was immediately struck by her humility and wit. "She doesn't take herself too seriously," he said. "She has a wonderful sense of humor and never lacks self-awareness." It's this authenticity, often missing in the world of monarchy, that gradually warmed the public toward her. Camilla and Charles' relationship began in the 1970s. Away from the cameras and headlines, their bond, forged in secrecy, endured the storms of public scandal, especially during Charles' marriage to Princess Diana. After their respective divorces, the couple made their first public appearance together. 6 years later, they tied the knot in a carefully planned wedding that symbolized a new chapter for both, particularly for Camilla, who was slowly being reintroduced to royal life with grace and strategy. That wedding, orchestrated with the help of then Press Secretary Patrick Harrison, was a major turning point. Though surrounded by media scrutiny and public skepticism, Camilla carried herself with dignity. She dazzled that day, many noted. And indeed, public sentiment began to shift. What started as resentment gradually evolved into respect. Now, almost 20 years later, another milestone, her coronation, walking proudly alongside her grandson's grandnephew, her sister Annabelle, and close friend, the Marchioness of Lansdowne. Camilla embraced her new role not just as queen consort, but as queen. She stood tall from Westminster Abbey to the balcony of Buckingham Palace, not in support of someone else's story, but as the central figure in her own. It wasn't just a ceremonial moment, it marked her solidified place in royal history. She had been on that balcony before, but never like this. Now she wore the crown, a symbol of her journey from national scorn to acceptance, even admiration. While public opinion has shifted, some generational divide remain. Older audiences remember the drama of the Charles-Diana era, but younger voices see Camilla through a different lens. "She hasn't done anything wrong," one said. "I may still see her as queen consort rather than queen, but I have no problem with her." And indeed, Camilla has not simply ridden the waves. She has learned from the past. Her efforts in championing causes related to literacy, domestic abuse, and mental health show a woman committed to more than just ceremonial duty. Once a controversial subplot, Camilla is now a leading figure in a royal love story that has defied the odds. Crowned not just by tradition, but by time, perseverance, and transformation, she has finally stepped into the light, no longer merely accepted but embraced. Camilla's crime, according to many, was her presence in the marriage of Charlotte's grandmother Diana. What role did she play in the scandal? Let's dig into the details of the love triangle of the century. The love triangle, featuring Charlotte's grandparents with an astonishing 750 million people glued to their televisions worldwide on that day in 1981. The fresh-faced 20-year-old Lady Diana Spencer looked up at 32-year-old Prince Charles and said, "I do." It was the wedding of the century, a fairy tale spectacle that seemed to promise a lifetime of royal bliss. But behind the glittering tiaras and public adoration, their marriage was already on shaky ground, and most people had no idea how troubled it would become. Long before Diana ever appeared in Charles's life, his heart had belonged to another woman Camilla shunned. They first met in 1970 and their bond was instant and intense, but Camilla did not fit the royal mold. She didn't come from noble bloodlines and wasn't considered pure enough to be groomed as the future queen. At the time, the royal family believed Charles had to marry a young aristocratic woman who could embody the image of an ideal princess. While Charles was away serving in the Royal Navy, Camilla moved on and married Andrew Parker Bowles. The loss devastated Charles, but he and Camilla remained close friends and soon rekindled their romantic relationship in the late 1970s. It wasn't until 1981 that Charles finally tried to put the past behind him by proposing to Diana, the shy blonde daughter of an earl whose family lineage was even older than the Windsors. The early years of Charles and Diana's marriage, watched by millions, seemed relatively happy as they built a young family. They welcomed Prince William in 1982 and Prince Harry in 1984. But by 1986 Charles could no longer ignore his feelings and resumed his affair with Camilla. The secret eventually began to spill into public view. In 1995, during a now famous interview with BBC journalist Martin Bashir, Diana was asked if Camilla played a role in the breakdown of her marriage. Recanted response became iconic. "Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded." Diana also shared with biographer Andrew Morton that she once directly confronted Camilla on tapes recorded for Morton's book Diana, Her True Story. Diana described the moment she told Camilla, "I know what's going on between you and Charles, and I just want you to know that Camilla tried to dismiss her concerns, saying you've got everything you ever wanted, you have all the men in the world falling in love with you, and you've got 2 beautiful children. What more do you want?" Diana's reply was heartbreakingly simple. "I want my husband." She added, "I'm sorry I'm in the way, it must be held for both of you, but I do know what's going on, don't treat me like an idiot." The royal couple separated in 1992 and finalized their divorce in 1996. Years later, in 2005, more than 3 decades after their love first began, Charles and Camilla finally married. Their civil ceremony at Windsor Guildhall was unprecedented. No heir to the throne had ever a divorced woman, nor had any bride married a Prince of Wales only to accept a lesser title. Camilla became the Duchess of Cornwall rather than Princess of Wales. Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip did not attend the ceremony itself, keeping a respectful distance. However, they joined the blessing afterward at St. George's Chapel in Windsor Castle and hosted a large reception for about 800 guests, marking the end of a long, complicated royal love story that had begun in secrecy and scandal. Why would Camilla's suspension be considered over her silent altercation with a 10-year-old princess? Could the princess be under protection, or perhaps she holds a greater position in the royal family? Let's dig into the details of Charlotte's bond with her parents, the future monarch. Princess Charlotte tender bonds. Princess Charlotte, the bright and spirited daughter of Prince William and Princess Catherine, holds a very special place in the royal family as the middle child and their only little girl. She carries the role of the next generation's spare, a label that comes with envy, visible pressures many don't see. Her parents are keenly aware of this, and they are going out of their way to surround her with love, strength, and a deep sense of security. Charlotte has formed an especially close bond with her father whenever the family attends public events. She is often spotted reaching for William's hand or walking proudly by his side. This gentle connection is something William treasures. He often thinks of Charlotte when he meets children her age during royal engagements to keep the memory of her late grandmother alive. William enjoys telling Charlotte stories about Princess Diana, the remarkable woman she never had the chance to meet. He believes it's important that Charlotte and her older brother George grow up understanding how much Diana meant to their family and to the world. In interviews, William said he wants his children to feel proud of their grandmother's legacy, and sharing memories is his way of building that invisible bridge to the past. Charlotte's relationship with her mother has also blossomed beautifully over the years. As she gets older, she is learning to see Catherine as not only her mother, but also a true friend she can trust. People close to the family have shared that Kate is very intentional about nurturing this closeness. She wants Charlotte to experience the kind of warm, unbreakable bond she herself shares with her own mother, Carol Middleton, and her sister Pepper. Since Charlotte doesn't have a sister to grow up with, Kate has made it her mission to fill that space by spending extra time with her daughter, whether they are baking together in the kitchen, tending to the garden, or simply curling up with a storybook. Mindful of the difficulties that Prince Harry has spoken about in his own experience as the spare, William and Catherine are determined to chart a different course for Charlotte. They want her to grow up feeling valued, cherished, and free to be herself, without the shadows that can sometimes follow royal children. To protect their kids from too much public scrutiny, the family has chosen a quieter life. They now live in a cottage tucked away on the Windsor estate, where Charlotte and her brothers can play and explore without cameras always watching. Instead of sending their children to elite, highly guarded schools, William and Catherine opted for an ordinary school that gives Charlotte a taste of a normal childhood. There she can make friends, learn and laugh without constantly being reminded of her royal status. On school holidays, the family often escapes on simple, relaxing vacations far from palace walls and flashing cameras. Whether it's a beach trip or a countryside break, these moments are about building joyful memories. As a family, through all of these thoughtful choices, William and Catherine hope to give Charlotte and her brothers something priceless: a childhood full of warmth, stability, and the freedom to grow into the people they are meant to be. Let's delve into the details of the succession to the British throne. To determine Charlotte's position and understand why she is her generation's spare, the reason Camilla might be sanctioned on her behalf, the royal road to the crown. The way someone becomes the king or queen of Britain isn't random or based on popularity. It's determined by very old rules about family, gender, legitimacy, and religion. In simple terms, the crown passes down through a royal family's bloodline. If a king or queen has children, their oldest child is next in line. If they don't have any children, the crown goes to the closest family member from another branch of the royal tree. Two important laws, the Bill of Rights of 1689 and the Act of Settlement of 1701, laid out strict guidelines about who can inherit the throne. According to these laws, only the legitimate Protestant descendants of Sophia of Hanover, a German princess, could be monarchs. Even more, anyone who was Roman Catholic or who married a Catholic was automatic or